Hey, we're streaming. Hey, we're streaming. Hi, chat, says Schizo Poster. Good to see you, bud. Good to see you. You're the first one in. Congratulations. Welcome to you. Hope you guys are all doing well out there today. I went to the beach today with a friend. We got wings. And I sat and I stared at the clouds. And she said something actually really, profound. I've always loved looking at the clouds. If you guys, Kevin, good to see you, bud. If you guys spend any amount of time on this channel, you find out that I'm a big proponent of all of us just leaving our places of work, walking out and just going out and laying in fields and staring at the clouds. I think that we would be better off as a people if we all just ceased our ridiculous quote-unquote productivity and simply went and stared at the clouds. And I've always been a proponent of this, and we got talking about clouds as we were watching the clouds, doing something useful with our time. And she said that cloud watching is like looking at a Rorschach test, that the patterns you see in the clouds are a reflection of your own inner consciousness. And if you find yourself finding patterns or finding pictures or finding things, you should take note of those and then look at dream interpretation, stuff that Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung was working on, in order to try to find something out about your own internal self. And I think that that's really neat. I think that's really cool that, you could look at there's something, mystical about it that I really, really like. That you're going out and staring at the clouds and the universe is sending you signals, and those signals are a reflection of your own inner consciousness. I rather like that. I'm going to think of that every time I look at the clouds now. And anytime I'm like, oh, look, it's a butterfly, I'm going to be like, what does a butterfly represent? What is the butterfly represents the inner sleeping dragon of your order consciousness. The dragon of order and the specter of chaos are both intermingled within the mind of the Eric, good to see you, bud. Good to see you. I mean, what's going on in the news, guys? What's going on? Honestly, the big piece of news, the number one thing that I think I need to point at and outright ridicule, and everybody should be ridiculing right now, Canada's finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, calls inflation rate dropping within target range a milestone moment. We did it, you guys. We dropped inflation to 2.8%. We're a serious country that actually cares about the nature of what's going on. What a joke. What a joke these dumb liberals are. Just these ineffectual, flaccid, absolutely worthless, pathetic, empty haircuts, reading cue cards handed to them from organizations that obviously exist in order to exploit the public of their labor and their time as much as possible. That we're all supposed to stand up and give a hip hip hooray because inflation's only going to go up 2.8% instead of 3.4%, you guys. Meanwhile, are your wages going up 2.8%? No. Are the liberals making wages go up? Are the liberals putting rent caps in? Are the liberals doing any of this? No. It's a total fucking joke. Anyone who would take this seriously. I want to meet the person who's actually standing there going, "Oh goodness, we've done it. We achieved it. Mission accomplished. We're the greatest country in the world. Mission accomplished." Right? Rents this year in Burnaby up 27.2%. Mississauga up 23.4%. Brampton 23.5%. Scarborough up 24.7%. Laval up 21.3%. Wages only up 4%. Chrystia Freeland, Mission impossible. Mission impossible. Mission accomplished, I mean to say. Man, talk about flubbing the landing. Mission accomplished. Ligon to Z, good to see you, bud. That meme with the guy spraying himself with a champagne bottle in third place is ever more relevant. Boy, I would be cheering for third place at this point. If we were standing on third place, I'd be like, sweet, we're the greatest. Third place, we did it. We placed, we got a medal, amazing. Third place, I'll take it, right? I would take third place at this point. We're like this disgraceful, degenerate group of losers. Like, third place, what are you talking about? Eric says, by the way, I learned something interesting today. I saw a Western source claiming that Russia is shelling Ukraine with 60K shells. Meanwhile, Ukraine might be doing 15 to 20K shells a day during their operations. I mean, the West's support of Ukraine is exclusively for transferring wealth into the hands of organizations like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. That's all it is now. Like, and it's them trying to find a way to ensure that the IMF and other corporations get control of Ukrainian territory. Like that's the whole goal here at this point. It's not about liberating Ukraine. It's not about ensuring that Ukraine remains a sovereign state. It's just about extracting as much wealth as possible from the citizens of the United States and Canada and Europe, while simultaneously using the blood of Ukraine as the method to do it. Like it's that's all this is. It's not like a war in a traditional sense. Like wars are usually fought with objectives and ideas that we're going to accomplish those objectives, and there's usually like a casus belli, right? There's usually some like the people who are actually fighting the war is Russia and Ukraine, right? There is actually an objective for Russia. They've stated their objective. And in many ways, Russia has accomplished its objectives in Ukraine, right? They've taken the territory that they have wanted to take. They're defending that territory. The Ukrainians do not have the manpower or the machinery or the weaponry to be able to retake that territory. They just don't, right? They just don't. That the Russians have shown over and over and over and over again that they are willing to draw from their reserves, right? There's no reserves coming for Ukraine. That the reserves that are coming are small groups, and like it's just getting to be sad. Like it's just getting to be sad. Schizo Poster says, thought they wanted to take all of Ukraine. No, that has never been their stated objective. That if you actually look at what Vladimir Putin said in the for the special military operation, there were three goals for that were stated. The first is the seizure of the Donbass region. That was the first objective. Then it's the demilitarization and then the denazification of Ukraine. That those are the three agendas that are on the books. That they have never actually said that their goal is to take all of Ukraine. And moreover, I don't think that Russia would be inclined to do so. Like there's a sharp difference between taking over a territory that the people of that region want to be taken over, right? They like the people of Donbass wanted Putin to come in. That they are happy Putin is there, because that their criticism of Putin is that he didn't go in earlier. That's their criticism of Putin. And there's a sharp difference between going into a region where people want you to be and then going into a region where people don't want you to be. And Putin understands that if the Russians were to push towards Kiev, like that's a significant military operation, much more significant than I think people realize, and moreover, very destructive, very, very, very destructive. Like you see the fight that the Ukrainians are putting up over the Donbass region and over this territory. Well, imagine what they're doing if the Russians are outside of their city, right? Imagine what they're going to do if the Russians are outside of their city. And the Russians are not going to be able to take Kiev without blowing up major sections of it. And so the taking of Kiev would be an enormously lengthy, long. It'd be very difficult for me to perceive that they could do so without doing some kind of siege tactics, which is widely regarded as a war crime. And so I think they're completely disinclined to do so. That what their objective is, and what it always has been to take the Donbass region, and which is what they've done. Right? They've widely accomplished their goals. Now they're just shoring up their defenses. Like, a big reason why the head of the Wagner Group, whose name I always forget, I cannot keep this guy's name in my head for whatever. Prozhkin. Can I just I know it's Prigozhin. There. John and I said it at the same time. Thanks, John. Prigozhin. This Progozhin. Progozhin. But it's spelled Prigozhin. God damn, friggin', jeez, little frickin', God, frickin'. Why has it got to be like this? They spell it Prigozhin, and then it's spelled Progozhin. Come on. Come on, Eastern Ukraine. Come on, East Bloc. What's up? Yeah, my name is John. That's spelled ZF apostrophe T John. Oh, Milo. My little Milo's got some little snorts going on. Here. Yeah, you guys can hear. There you go. There you go. Poor Milo. Poor Milo. He's got a little face. Why did they do this to your face, my man? How do you smell Milo's snort? It's got to be like a GH FFFF kind of thing. Anyway, John, unofficially, there's a lot of Russian talks, including Putin, talking about how Odessa is the deciding factor to end the war. I mean, I don't think that the real truth of this conflict is that the war isn't going to end until America says so. Like, that's the long and short of it. That Russia will always be fighting, that there will always be military conflict, there will always be some kind of conflict going on the Donbass Ukrainian border, so long as the United States is funding it, and so long as the United States is going along with it, and as long as they're continuously funneling money and arms and weaponry, as long as we have a leadership that's completely willing to support it, as long as NATO is willing to completely support this, then it's going to be never ending. And it's going to be never ending for a very clear and obvious reason, which is as long as it's an endless war, you can endlessly pilfer money from the populace, which is the goal, ultimately. Right? This is the goal. The goal is not to complete any kind of military objective whatsoever. That if America, let's say America and NATO were somehow able to accomplish a military objective and actually push the Russians back into Russia and all of this, well, we all know what the next step would be. Right? It would be military operations on the Russian border, right? Because it's all about extracting wealth from the public. That's all it's about. It's not about, and anybody that gets whipped up into this idea of like we're fighting for the righteousness and the freedom of Ukraine. It's a joke. It's a joke. Bread Bunny, good to see you. Larry, good to see you. Your audio is messed up. Low volume in right channel. I don't know what to tell you, bud. I haven't changed any of my audio, any of my things. Everything looks good on this end. Although yesterday I did have like some robot voice coming through. So I apologize, Larry. I'm doing my best. I need a tech person is what I need. I mean, the interesting article for today, Canada's finance minister calls inflation rate dropping within target range a milestone moment. This seems to be the Liberals' strategy, right? Which is so stupid that I can't believe. Like, I'd really love to talk to like a real, true Liberal supporter. Not somebody who's like shrugging, being like, I mean, they're the best of the worst options or any of this kind of stuff. But somebody who's actually like, yeah, liberals, I vote for Trudeau because he's the future of Canada. Like, these guys are complete and total losers, right? Like, these guys are complete and total losers. Like, we are looking at a situation. Canada's inflation rate dropping to 2.8% in June is a milestone moment for Canadians. Should find some relief in, according to Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. Down from 3.4% in May, the annual inflation rate has not been within Bank of Canada's target range between 1% and 3% since March 2021. That is a significant moment. It should provide a lot of relief to Canadians, Freeland said, speaking via teleconference with reporters from Delhi following her participation in a G20 finance ministers meeting. And I really want to thank Canadians. It has been a really tough time economically since COVID first hit, since we had a recession, followed by all the strains of reopening. And this is a really good moment. The current rate is the lowest that inflation has been in more than 2 years, down from a high of 8.1% in June of last year. And as Freeland pointed out, inflation in Canada is now lower than every other G7 country, where rates range from 8.7% in UK to 3.2% in Japan. It's been a real struggle for Canadians and the Canadian economy to get back down to 2.8%, and I'm really grateful to everyone who has sort of stayed the course, Freeland said. Asked whether she shares the Bank of Canada's outstanding concern identified when the central bank raised interest rates again last week that inflation will stall out above 2% until 2025, Freeland declined to make predictions or forecasts. I do not have a crystal ball, Freeland said. I do think that today is a milestone moment. Good to know that the finance minister is not trying to predict a path forward, right? Radiance 96. I don't know if I've ever seen you here before. Good to see you. If I have seen you here before, hello anyway. Good to see you. Grinning, good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Like, what a joke this all is, right? Like, if you are falling for this very obvious grift, right? I don't know what to tell you. That the strategy of the capitalist class is to extract as much wealth from you as possible until it gets so bad that you're willing to revolt. And then their goal is to put things, quote unquote, back in line so that you'll grumble, but you won't do anything. And that's basically what they're doing. That if you're Galen Weston and you went and you sat in front of the Congress and got questioned by, or rather the House, and you got questioned by the House, you're going to take that as a pretty significant, like, hey, bud, stop jacking prices moment, which is exactly what they're doing. Yeah, inflation suddenly went down when the House questioned me. Wow, what a coinkydink. What a coinkydink. That the second that the House started threatening serious action against me, that's when inflation went down. Whoa! Like, we are being grifted. These people are grifters. That the only thing that Chrystia Freeland cares about is her own pocketbook. The only thing Justin Trudeau cares about is his own pocketbook. They don't care about anything else at all. They certainly don't care about you. They certainly don't care about you. And so this idea that we should all stand up as a people and celebrate that inflation is back down to 2.8%, what a joke. What a joke. We should all cheer that the capitalists are getting away with it. We should all cheer that they extracted all this wealth from us and now they're just going to walk away from the implosion. That's essentially what we're supposed to be, what we're being told. That hey, we finally, the capitalists are actually no longer doing mass extraction from us and are calming things down because they see that we're actually acting out against them. And that's enough, right? That's enough. We've done it, right? That's good. Right, we don't need to have any truth and reconciliation. We don't need to take that wealth back. We don't need to rid ourselves of Galen Weston and nationalize the food distribution network. We don't need to rid ourselves of people like David Thompson. We don't need to rid ourselves of this psychopathic system that's obviously grifting us this entire time, that's stealing all of our wages, that's stealing all of our time, that's stealing our lives away from us and telling us to be happy about it. Like, we definitely shouldn't have those conversations because inflation's back down, you guys. We did it. We did it. Yeah. Inflation's back down. Hooray, what a milestone moment. Yeah. Like, yeah, the wealthy are just now squealing. We need a lot more of that. Yeah. Like, one of the things that I think is really great to see is that the writer's strike that happened, right? That you had the writer's strike that was happening, and then a press release or one of these psychopathic billionaire owners said that their goal was to starve the writers out until they started losing their houses. This leads to the actors striking because the actors are basically seeing what's going on with the writers and thinking to themselves, oh, that's quite serious, right? And I think my favorite part about the actors going on strike is learning that the president of the Screen Actors Guild of America is Fran Drescher, the nanny, right? Did you guys know that? That the president, like the person that the Screen Actors Guild of America has chosen to represent them as the highest political force of them, the face of the Actors Guild today is the nanny. I love it. I love it. It's this. It's that. That's the voice of this. I want a nanny state. Brilliant. Perfect. Oh my God, dude. That's great. Holy cow. This is what we need. This is what we need. We need a Fran Drescher movie called The Nanny State. That's what we need. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Let's do a callback to The Nanny with Fran Drescher called The Nanny State. That's $1 billion idea right there, you guys. Mark it right now. Mark it in your calendars. Write it down right now. Fran Drescher, The Nanny State, $1 billion international and worldwide. Who is how dare you, sir? How dare you, Eric? How dare you? Fran Drescher, The Nanny. This is seminal, classic, early 90s sitcom, like family sitcom. Of course, it's all the Screen Actors Guild stuff. No, give me The Nanny. God damn! How Fran Drescher, you brilliant, beautiful woman right now. You lovely, wonderful, sunshiny, golden goddess of a person, going on strike, pulling up your heels. So the whole premise of The Nanny is essentially like this guy is a rich, I don't remember if he's, oh my God, go away. Why am I in Yahoo? Anyway, this guy is just rich cocksucker, basically, just a rich asshole who needs a nanny. And so he ends up with Fran Drescher, who is like a sassy Italian, essentially, with like a very nasally voice. If you're familiar with Janice from Friends, right, the girlfriend that Chandler had for forever, she was a recurring character throughout the show. Janice from Friends is Fran Drescher from The Nanny, just redone again. And it was like one of these 90s shows. It was literally in with like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Alf, right? You'd like watch like The Nanny, Alf, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's yeah, I mean, it's not that well known. Yeah, this girl. Well, this is the family right here. Like, this is the family. Is that he is divorced with her. Like, look, it's like all of this like rich people stuff. Can you imagine being so rich that you actually can just hire people to like these people exist, right? They're just called assistants now, right? Instead of calling them butlers and nannies, they're now called assistants, right? And this is how we're getting away from like the British aristocracy, the British wealthy class of people who have their butlers, their doormen, right? Their nannies, right? The wet nurses, right? None of that exists anymore. Everybody's just an assistant, right? That you're just an assistant, but it's the same thing. Like, it's just the same thing. To be honest, I think the only 90s show I ever watched was Home Improvement, right? Yeah. I get it. Yeah, it's all gig work too, with little to no benefits in retirement. Yeah, everything's like that now, right? Everything's like that now. Larry says no frills is almost as much as Loblaws now. My cold brew coffee was actually cheaper at Loblaws. Yeah. Here is a statement that came out July 18th from Jagmeet Singh. Food and housing prices continue to rise. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau's inaction is leading to skyrocketing grocery prices, record high rent, a mortgage bombshell. Interest rate hikes won't fix that. Only a government ready to take on corporate greed will get us there. Here is the closest that Jagmeet Singh has finally gotten to actually making a leftist statement of any sort. That he's actually saying out loud, we have to take on corporate greed. So I think that we can officially say that the NDP is pulling Jagmeet Singh's teeth to finally actually pretend at least to be a leftist. Loaf, good to see you, bud. Good to see you. Good opportunity. We're almost at 6:30. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, guys. If you can donate to the Patreon, please consider doing so. Support the show. If you can't donate, the next best thing that you can do, and in fact, I actually say that this is the best thing that you can do, is tell somebody about this show. Let people know. If you know somebody who's looking for content, if you know somebody who's looking for something to listen to while they work, if you know somebody who's looking for an alternative viewpoint and a voice that has not been corrupted by the corporate power structure, let them know about me. Tell them I exist. Spread the word. Spread the good word of the gospel of Jonathan. Good to see you as well, love. Good to see you, bud. Gig work isn't just limited to Uber drivers. White-collar jobs are also contracted out as well, like all gig work with little to no benefits. Well, one of the things I think that's starting to break for people, and they're starting to realize, right, is that even the jobs that we sort of were assuming were good-paying jobs, or at least had a good price point, are no longer that way, right? Here's an article from Insider. Matilda star Mara Wilson, Orange is the New Black cast member Kimiko Glenn, and more actors are revealing how little money they make as SAG-AFTRA strike rolls on. Hollywood actors in the SAG-AFTRA union are opening up about the lack of money they have received from appearing on hit TV shows and movies, either upfront or in residuals. Residuals are royalties earned when a TV show or a movie is screened again after its initial release. SAG-AFTRA says for TV work, residuals begin once a show starts re-airing or is released to video DVD, pay television, broadcast TV, basic cable, or new media. For film work, residuals begin once the movie appears on video DVD, basic cable, and free or pay television or new media. New media in this context means streaming. Here's what the star of Matilda, Mara Wilson, Sean Gunn, and more have said. Wilson began acting as a child and starred in hit movies including Matilda, Miracle on 34th Street, and Mrs. Doubtfire. In 2000, she took a break from acting but returned years later to guest star in shows such as BoJack Horseman and Big Hero 6, the series. Last week, Wilson tweeted that she had not made enough to qualify for SAG-AFTRA healthcare, despite acting in these shows. Numerous actors have said that the minimum an actor must earn to qualify is $26,000 a year. I haven't acted much as an adult, but I was on a recurring character on one of the most critically acclaimed animated shows of all time, as well as playing an actual Disney villain, Wilson tweeted. But thanks to streaming, I have never made once enough to qualify for SAG-AFTRA healthcare. Last week, The New Yorker reported that some cast members from Orange is the New Black were paid very little, despite appearing on the Emmy Award-winning hit Netflix show. The article referenced a TikTok video Glenn posted in 2020. In the video, Glenn showed a letter notifying her of the residuals she received from appearing in 44 episodes of the show. The total was $27.37. The article also reported that Emma Miles, another actor on the show, was paid less than $900 for each day of filming. However, in an Instagram post, Glenn said that half of that pay didn't actually go to the actors. We don't make $900 a day, $900 per day of shooting. That happens about twice every 2 weeks. So take away taxes, commissions, that nets you about $450 for that 1 day of shooting, Glenn wrote. And assuming you work 4 days a month, we're talking about $1,800 for a month's work. And you live in New York City. That doesn't make rent. She continued, also, once we started getting paid a little more, we started getting taxed as if we made that episodic rate in 1 day, often taking away 55% of our paycheck. 20% for agent manager commissions. Some people have lawyers, 5%. Some people had to pay publicists, $2,000 to $6,000 a month, no guarantee for any press coverage. There's a lot of misplaced outrage in these comments. $900 for 1 day of shooting is epically low for someone who is recurring on a hit TV show, where they are contractually obligated to stay available 6 months out of the year. In response to Glenn's video, McGorry commented, according to The New Yorker, exactly. I kept my day job the entire time I was on the show because it paid better than the mega hit TV show we were on. McGorry starred in 25 episodes of the hit show. Dover also responded to Glenn's TikTok video, per The New Yorker. It actually cost me money to be in season 3 and 4, since I was cast local hire and had to fly myself out. But I was so excited for the opportunity to be on a show I loved, so I took the hit. It's maddening. Dover was in 36 episodes of Orange is the New Black. Dover told The New Yorker that the cast have not been fairly compensated by any stretch of the imagination. They're telling us, oh, we can't pay you this much because we're pinching pennies, she said. But then Netflix is telling their shareholders they're making more than they've ever made. Miles told The New Yorker that she earned about $20 this year in residuals from appearing in 54 episodes of Orange is the New Black, and about $600 a year from guest spots on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Miles also said she had to work for a financial firm while filming the show, acting in live simulations for aspiring financial planners. She recalled one financial planner telling her over the phone, "You sound exactly like the Amish meth head on Orange is the New Black. Has anyone ever told you that?" Sean Gunn slammed Netflix for the lack of residuals he has received following the success of Gilmore Girls on the platform. Gunn slammed Netflix last week for the lack of residuals he has received for his role on the show, as the series continues to be a success on the streamer. Just a quick pause while on this. I love Gilmore Girls. I thought that Gilmore Girls was a brilliant show, the first season especially. That it got pretty clear that they didn't really know where to go with the show as the show went on, and it kind of lost its way, and then the reboot that they did was a total disaster, in my opinion. But Gilmore Girls, loved it. Worth the watch. Absolutely. Sit down with your girlfriend, sit down with your husband, sit down as a family, and enjoy Gilmore Girls. It's a delightful show. Gunn told The Hollywood Reporter on the first day of the SAG-AFTRA strike, "I was on a television show called Gilmore Girls for a long time that has brought in massive profits for Netflix. It has been one of their most popular shows for a very long time, over a decade. It gets streamed over and over and over again. And I see almost none of the revenue that comes into that. While Warner Brothers, which produced the show and licensed it to Netflix, is responsible for residual payments to those who qualify, Gunn clarified on Twitter that he thought the cast should get a share of the millions of dollars in profits the streamer has made from the show." Glickman, Stephen Kramer Glickman, who played Gustavo on Big Time Rush, tweeted that he had received no residuals from the show's streaming deals with Netflix and Paramount. "For those of you trying to understand the SAG strike, here is a little info for you. Big Time Rush played on Netflix for 2 years and then got moved to Paramount Plus, Glickman wrote. Any guesses on how much I was paid by Netflix and Paramount Plus in residuals? I'll give you a hint. It's 0. Constance Marie also shared. She said in a TikTok video that the industry needed to update the residual system to fit the streaming model so that actors could get paid enough to sustain a living. She then shared part of her residuals from Switched at Birth, which she starred in across 104 episodes. I did that show for 5 years. Great cast, great writing. So the studio is still showing my show, my work, my likeness, and this is what I get paid for it, she said in the video. 3 cents, 4 cents, 74 cents. Marie did not give a full total, but added, I can't make a living. They're still making money, but I can't make a living and pay my rent and pay my insurance off these residuals. Camille McFadden, one of the main actors on Casey Undercover, said he only earned $2.77 in residuals. He showed that he made minus figures in residuals from some episodes of the hit show. Want to see something crazy? Y'all ever see negative amounts on your residuals? The full video is almost 2 minutes long, and I'm only netting $2.77. The math ain't mathing, he tweeted. Luke Cook said he was paid $7,500 per episodes of Dollface before taxes and commission. The star of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina said that 95% of union members were not big stars, making millions of dollars, and that the strike would ensure that these people got a livable wage. Cook said in the video that he was paid $7,500 for each episode of Hulu's Dollface, and that the episodes each required 2 weeks of work. When it's taxed, then it's a manager takes 10%, an agent takes 10%, a lawyer takes 5%, he added. Now I am one rung below a series regular, who is making maybe $100,000 per episode. They're very wealthy, and they're worth it, too. They're usually very talented people. I shouldn't have to take 2 side jobs just in order to survive, Cook continued. Mika Burton, who starred in Star Trek Picard, said she was paid almost the same fee that her father, LeVar Burton, got for Roots in 1977. Burton, the daughter of the Star Trek star LeVar Burton, tweeted about how little she got paid when she appeared in 5 episodes of Star Trek Picard earlier this year. In response to a thread regarding misconceptions about the union, Mika wrote, "Please read this thread. I said before, there is no way I could survive as a working actor if I didn't have my 100 other side hustles. Yes, I was on Star Trek. I also do not qualify for SAG health insurance and was paid almost the same fee my dad was paid for in Roots back in 1977. Heather Mataroso shut down a Twitter commentator for calling her part of the elite by showing her some of her residuals. Mazzaro shared a screenshot showing some of her recent residuals, which included earning just 6 cents and 9 cents for certain projects. Really? Really, she said in the video. Do those look like elite numbers? I'm a working class actor, sir, as are the majority of the actors that are in the fucking union. Desmond Chaim said his residuals for streaming shows were a fraction of what he got paid for the network show Bones. Dude, this just keeps going. This just keeps going. This is just story after story after story after story after story after story after story. All saying the same thing. All saying the same thing. Like, it's a miracle people are doing it. Right? It's a miracle people are doing it. It's a testament to the desire to be part of a creative industry. That people are willing to do this. Right? That so much for the idea that it's just the profit motive. Right? If it's just the profit motive, then why are these people even tolerating this? Which now they're no longer doing so. Hopefully this stands as a wake-up moment for everybody. That it's bad all over. It's bad all over. This is how they're treating the people who are supposed to be rich. Aren't the people in the entertainment industry supposed to be rich? Right? When I think of these actors, I think of well-paid, well-fed, like people who have free time. Like no wonder no wonder we don't have any real artists, right? Because all of the artists are having to work at Starbucks at the same time, right? That if they do get something, it's just like it's paying them nothing. So they're just happy to be on a show of any sort, and they're not actually getting paid anything. And so what do we end up with? We just end up with faces. We don't end up with artists. We just end up with people who show up and say the lines. They're not actual artists because they don't have the time to actually curate their art. Because what are they doing with their time? Trying to eat, trying to get food. This is the death of the culture. This is the death of the culture. And you guys know my position. The culture should die. That this culture should die. The proliferation of gig work wouldn't be so horrible in the UF if we had Medicare for all. Look, I think that food and shelter should be free. I think that we've created a system that can generate food for everybody, that we've created a parasitical system that's extracting as much wealth as it possibly can so that people can go off to like Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island and challenge each other to fucking fist fights and dick measuring contests, shoot rockets at space every so often, right? Netflix has about 210 million monthly subscribers worldwide. Yep, the average subscription paying $8. That's 1.75 billion monthly revenue. And they want it for themselves. Right? They want it for themselves. Those actors are all doing gig work like their Uber peers. The industry knows that they will all eventually be replaced by AI, so that's why they're hollowing them out now. Yeah, it's not a big surprise. Capitalism will devour anyone in its way. Yeah, the art that this AI is going to produce is going to be extremely bad. Like, when I talk about the death of the culture, they're going to try. They're going to try to produce this Drek with AI, and there'll be a moment where we'll all be, like, taken by the novelty of it, but the reality is that it will become boring very fast. That all this AI is actually doing is taking the collective work of humanity, repackaging it, and vomiting it back out at us. It's not actually capable of saying anything interesting. And so the populace will get bored of it very fast. And it'll happen very fast. That we'll tolerate it for maybe a year. Like, we'll have a season of AI. And then the whole thing will bottom out. The whole thing will bottom out. Because no one is interested in watching the same... Like, you can only really watch a baby giggle in its cradle for so long before you're just like, okay, cool, like maybe you need to grow up. But the reality is that this AI isn't going to grow up. Like, we're so taken by the salesmanship behind AI that we're not actually investing in the reality of what AI is actually doing and how it actually operates, right? It's essentially just a very complicated spreadsheet. That's all it really is, right? It's not actually creating anything. It's not actually making anything, right? It's just repackaging the things that have already been made. And if you don't actually allow people to tell stories about the society that they live in, then your culture is just going to stagnate, which is exactly what's happened. I was told capitalism makes the free market, gives workers what they deserve. Yeah. John, it's wokeism that's killing Hollywood. Yeah, that's right. Certainly not just money. Giving workers what they deserve makes no profit. Exactly, Radiance. The whole system is a system of extraction, right? That's the whole point. Do you think it's failing because we're not using stories properly? Are we really supposed to be entertained through stories? I mean, that's a big, big question, Grinning. Like, that's a big, big question, right? That, like... What's the point of art? What's the point of spending your time? Like, the mundanity of our storytelling culture it's so obvious that, like, this era of superheroism is essentially an indication of our stagnated and dead culture. That superheroes, by their very existence, are... I'm stealing this phrase from David Graeber, that they superheroes have no projects, they create nothing, and are reactionary by their very nature. That they live in a state of total stasis until a threat comes along to the status quo, incidentally, for them to defeat. That superheroes exist as icons of capitalist realism. That the society that they live in and the society that's generated them are assumed to be correct and normal and natural in the world of the superhero. And the superhero only stands up against the villain because the villain stands as a threat to the status quo. And that's why all of the villains and their objectives are complete, always, 100% of the time, incoherent. That villains in these superhero narratives are senseless, stupid. Their goals are just destruction for the sake of destruction, some kind of vengeance quest or something like that. Because if the villains, if their objectives were coherent, if the audience could understand their objectives outside of simple destruction for the sake of destruction, then the relationship between the hero and the villain would invert, and that we would understand that the superhero is in fact the one who is the oppressor, and the villain is the one who is the reformist, who is attempting to actually reform the society. Because fundamentally, the villain is the one who wants to change the status quo. The villain is the one who wants to make things different, at least different. And the someone like Superman, for example, like if Superman existed in today's society, he would be reviled. He would be completely reviled because he would be a pro-capitalist, pro-American imperialist. That would be very straightforwardly what he would be. And so, how do we create actual art, right? How do we have serious conversations about serious subjects, given that we've handed billions and hundreds of billions of dollars over to people who are obviously psychopaths, right? You can't actually create meaningful art and have meaningful conversations about anything meaningful. And this has created an enormous vacuum in the society where we can't actually have meaningful discussions about anything that actually matters to anyone. And that vacuum is being filled by Barbie. That vacuum is being filled by like Mattel toys because and like shitty nightclub comedians, because there's this enormous vacuum where people are asking these serious questions to themselves, and the answers that they're getting back are, oh, it's a you problem. And so people are standing up and saying anything, and those people are being listened to. Couldn't the AI improve over time, though? Maybe one day human-written media will look obsolete and unheard of among average folks. Look, it's nice to dream, right? It's nice to live in a space of magical thinking. A robot is not a human and never will be, right? And to me, it is that simple. Like, the best that they will ever do is create something that mimics what we are doing. But because AI doesn't exist in reality, and it's not actually a social critic. It doesn't understand the point of artistry. It doesn't understand the point of comedy. It doesn't understand any of these things, right? It's going to be like a tin can version of art, and it's never actually going to make you think. It's never actually going to make you cry. It's never actually going to make you feel feelings, because it doesn't feel feelings. Right? All it knows is that this was popular at one point, and so we'll repackage it, relabel everything, and shit it out in front of your face. And the best you'll ever do is go, I guess that AI did was an okay thing, I guess. And that's the best it'll ever do, because it's not a person, and it can't be a person. The best it can do is mimic a person, but a mimic can never touch the reality of what an artist can actually do. Like, there will never be an AI William Shakespeare. It's just not real. It's nice to create sort of like, we tell stories about time travel, right? We love that. We love telling stories about magic. Like, we love telling stories about wizards, and the story about AI is no different. It's a magical story that we tell each other because it's cool, and we like the idea that, oh, look at this creature that humanity created that's capable of achieving the things that humanity has created, because that way it ascends humans to the form of God themselves. that God is what created humanity, and humanity is going out into the universe and all this kind of stuff, and then humanity can also become gods. That all of our stories that we tell about humanity and this stupid, shitty culture is all about ascending to godhood. And we can't. We can't. We're not going to create something that is even capable of doing the things that we are capable of doing. That we're all jerking off about AI, when in reality, all AI is ever going to be for is just efficiently allocating resources. That's all it's ever going to be good at, right? That's for real. That's all it's ever going to be good for, is looking at a spreadsheet and saying, oh, this area needs these resources, and but when it comes to actually being creative, when it comes to actually doing things like law, right? When it comes to actually dealing with things like justice, right? With a legal system, right? Woe be to the society that cedes any amount of authority or power or creative energy to an AI based on the magical thinking that an AI is going to be able to produce better outcomes. Woe be to that society. The fascistic, rigid, shitty culture that such a thing will generate will be so intolerable to the people that the outcomes will be suicide and rebellion almost immediately. And I just think that we're getting ourselves caught into a place. It's no different than when Elon Musk is like, we're going to get to Mars and colonize Mars. And we're all like, Mars, whoa, it's magic. It's us believing that magic is real. It's not any different than the people who are like, Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment. I believe it. And magic, we're all going to go to heaven after we die. Magic is real. Whoa! The AI is going to take over, and it's going to create a utopian society for all of us. And the art it's going to create is going to be mind-blowing. And all this go, whoa! It's magic. It's magic. It's not real. It's not real. Like, it's a nice idea. But too bad. It's not real. Like, it's a spreadsheet. It's a complicated spreadsheet. That's it. And that's all it's ever going to be. Like, it's going to be really good at pattern recognition. It's going to be really good at playing chess. It's going to be really good at war games. It's going to be really good at allocating resources, right? At moving little marks or all of this kind of stuff. But it's never going to be able to tell you it's never going to be able to tell you what is just or unjust. It's never going to be able to tell you that the extraction of wealth from the working class is an act of injustice that needs to be rectified. It's because it's not interested in that, and it's never going to be interested in that. Like, it's not going to be able to create art that's actually going to make you think meaningfully about your society. All it's ever going to do is shit out Dadaist nonsense, psychedelic, trippy bullshit, or just like corporate, banal advertising, basically. Like, that's basically what it's going to be, and it's because the AI is not generating what it's generating for the sake of art itself, for the pursuit of art, but as a commodity, because the AI itself is a commodity. And it's being marketed and sold to us as a commodity. And we're falling for the commodity. We're falling for the salesmanship. That all of this, like, dream of the vision of the AI future, it's just salesmanship. They just want people to buy the product. That you're sure the AI is just a shitty child right now, but you wait. If you invest $5.99 now, if you put that money in the pocket right there, it'll evolve over time. For sure it will. Absolutely. Yep. For sure. 100%. You're investing in the future of humanity. Absolutely. You're not just buying a complicated spreadsheet generator, which is all this thing is, and all it ever will be. Like, and I'm not saying that it's not an interesting tool, right? I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not going to have a profound impact on the labor market. I'm not saying it's going to be nothing, or it's not going to do anything at all. But the idea that it's going to, like, it's going to fulfill the promises that these liars have always lied about, like, it's not going to do that. What it's going to do is it's going to displace a bunch of workers. It's going to throw a bunch of people onto the streets, right? It's going to organize the economy for the benefit of the ownership class, find more efficient ways to extract wealth away from the public, impoverishing everybody. And the capitalists are just going to let that happen, and they're going to continuously tell us that it's good that it's doing it, and it's our fault for not being able to survive under these conditions. Like, I just think we need to stop thinking magically about this shit. Right? It's not going to create anything that's going to make anybody think about anything ever. It's not going to make anybody give a shit about anything. It is at best going to be dangling keys in front of a baby-fied nation. That the people who are actually going to be entranced by the art, quote unquote, the art that is produced by this AI are infants. Because it wouldn't matter. Right? It wouldn't matter what you put in front of these people. It wouldn't matter that you could literally take if you dressed a guy up like Iron Man and had him dangle keys in front of them, people would still be like, whoa, that's great. Whoa. Can you believe an AI generated that? Whoa. It's just bullshit. It's just nonsense. But you can see, based on this entire generation of superhero movie shit, that it doesn't matter what you make. It doesn't matter. Like, all of these superhero films are the same film. They reskin them, right? They dangle keys in front of you and create like sparkling lights, right? And they twist the camera and bend it. Oh my God, their fingers are hot dogs, right? It's like Dadaist nonsense for the most part. That's all rooted in a proto-fascist narrative. And we're all just supposed to kind of go along with it without thinking about it, because we're not thinking about it, because we're too exhausted. We're getting pounded in the ass by this economy. We're getting absolutely destroyed. Climate change is absolutely going to destroy us completely. But we're all just going to sit down and watch yet another shitty Thor movie, or a shitty Indiana Jones movie, or a shitty Superman movie, shitty Batman movie that has nothing to say about anything at all and isn't interested in it. Because the only message they want you to walk out of the theater thinking is, the society I live in is naturally good, and anyone that stands up against it is worth having Superman punch them in the face over. That's the only message they want you to think. And it's the only message anybody does think. Like, so you might as well just have AI generate that bullshit. Because we've tolerated 20 years of it. We've tolerated 20 years of like Spider-Man fighting Green Goblin again for the third time. Like, that story has been told so many times that they literally just made a movie where they got 3 of the actors in the same place because of a timeline merger, all that kind of stuff, because they told the story 3 times. Like, and we all just were like, yeah, I loved it. I watched it 3 times, again and again. I gave my money for the same story. It was a different actor, though, so it was different. Like, if we're gonna be chumps, then they can chump us. If we're gonna be dumb, then they might as well just have a robot do it, right? Because it's the same story. Just take the same script, right? Put the next time they do it, it'll be the exact same script, because it's always the exact same script. They'll just jam it through like a computer that randomly generates characters. They'll just randomly generate the characters, layer it over the script, send it off to us, and we'll be like, wow, it's that same story, but slightly different with different looking stuff. And we'll watch it, and we'll give our money over. Because that's what we do, always, 100% of the time. Because like the propaganda system has worked. It's worked. It's a mea culpa. Like, they can literally just send us to the movies over and over and over again to watch the same movie over and over and over again. We're all just like, yeah, the Spider-Man movie was great. Did you see the Spider-Verse movie with the Miles? It's the same movie again, but it's a sequel, so it's different. Into the Spider-Verse. Like, we're living in this like Dadaist hellscape that we're all just like accepting. Has Elon commented on the SAG-AFTRA situation? I haven't seen anything. Solution: nationalize foods production and decommodify housing. Just do it already. Yep, that's my position, Cotton. You and I are of a mind. You and I are of a mind. It's funny. that it's now they are in strikes, we started to hear about these things. Yeah, Dave, isn't that interesting, right? Like that it's all quietly happening behind the scenes. But this is how things tend to work, right? That there's a bubbling up and a building up, and people genuinely want to believe that the systems that exist will respond rationally, right? And my hope is that this actor strike and these writer strikes and these continued strikes are going to show people that the systems are not going to respond rationally, that the leaders and the owners of these systems are not capable of responding rationally, that these strikes and these pushbacks are the only things that they will respond to. The trouble is that this time around, the ownership class has so much wealth that they literally can wait an entire lifetime. Like, this is the hard truth about these strikes, by the way, is that the ownership class can literally walk away. They have hundreds of billions of dollars. They can literally just walk away and just be like, whatever. I don't need to make movies anymore. I have hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm not staking my life on this. Like, I don't need to pay my bills or anything like this. I could just walk away from it. And many of them will. Like, I am genuinely of the opinion that what we are witnessing is the death of the culture. That the wealthy have become so psychotic and so detached from reality that and so detached from any meaningful outcomes in the society that they will just walk away. It's a system of extraction and abandonment. And just because the writers and the actors are fighting doesn't mean they won't be abandoned. They will, just like the rest of us. And the billionaire class can afford to walk away because they've got no bills to pay. They've got no skin in the game whatsoever. They'll just walk away and erect an entirely different system, right? They'll just walk away and erect an entirely different system. They'll all collectively look at the Screen Actors Guild and the hundreds of thousands of actors and the writers and all this and be like, nah, we'll just do what we always do to all of you. We'll just discard you. And we'll find a new group of people who are willing to work outside of the union. It's exactly what they're going to do. And it doesn't matter if it takes them 20 years. It doesn't matter if it takes them 40 years. It doesn't matter if it takes them 100 years. Because they have so much money that they can just do that. That the only thing that will ever be created from this day forward is going to be the stuff that the billionaires want to see created. And the only stuff that they are going to want to see created is stuff that basically jerks them off. Right? So get ready for it, guys. Get ready for a big, long era of capitalist jerking, of capitalist, like, self-masturbation. Like, we're going to watch a lot of masturbatorial bullshit. Because these billionaires are just going to produce what they want to see produced. And it's all going to be about how great they are. Get ready for it. Hey, John, I can't wait until they go after the police pensions and overtime. That's the one thing they'll never do. The capitalists have shown over and over again, like, while they are gutting the healthcare system, while they're gutting the arts, while they're gutting all of this kind of stuff, what's the one thing that they're continuously raising the funding of? The police. Because they know exactly what they're doing. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, right? That they are going to destroy this society, extract as much as they can, and abandon it. And they're going to hire as many police as they can to beat the shit out of people. They know precisely what they're doing. They're never going to go after police pensions and overtime. They're literally letting police build a cop city, for Christ's sakes. Like, the militarization of the society and the militarization of the police is intentional. They know what they're doing, and they're never going to turn against those people. They're never going to turn against those people because they know what they are. They know that they are the extension of their power. If anything, they're going to augment them and create more of them. John writes, South Korean film is on a power surge. I hope they aren't as exploitive as Hollywood. Yeah, they are. For sure they are. I'm ready for Squid Games 2 and more Parasite-style films. I suspect that Squid Games and Parasite were one-offs. That those are the films that sort of slipped through the cracks. And they slipped through the cracks of the storytelling apparatus because the South Korean capitalists they're not as savvy, they're not as sophisticated as Western capitalists in regards to their understanding of the power of culture. And then the Western capitalists didn't really think that films would come out of South Korea and have an impact in the West. I suspect that that will stop now. that they will release like Squid Game style stuff and Parasite style stuff, but it will all be within the framework of capitalist realism from now on. It's what happened to Star Trek, right? That Star Trek it started as an explicitly anti-capitalist, pro-communist piece of media that steadily over time has denigrated into basically being like they mouth the platitudes of socialism occasionally, but everything is within the framework of capitalist realism. That there are caps to the difficulties or to the changes that you can do, and the social issues that they highlight within Star Trek went from being like, how do we get rid of capitalists, to we should have a union. Like, that's the difference. And now even the union talk is gone. Right now, even the union talk is gone. I've got a friend who's trying to convince me that the new Star Trek that they're doing, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, is apparently is good. So I'm going to check that out. But I expect it's not. Like, I expect it's going to be very much within this framework of capitalist realism, that they're going to pretend as though what they're doing is reformist, but really what it is narrowing the conversation of what reform actually looks like. So instead of the conversation being like, capitalists are worthless, we should overthrow them. We should, people like David Thompson, Elon Musk, Bill Gates should have $0 and no assets whatsoever. We should strip them of their power completely and remove the capitalists from our society entirely. Instead of that being the conversation will be, yeah, we should form a union so that we can eat food, but keep working for the capitalists, because we can never be done with the capitalists. That capitalism is a natural form of existence, right? You can't be done with capitalism. That's just basic human nature, right? But you can form a union, right? To look out for to get concession style bargaining. So that's socialism, right? Like that's what's happened to our film, and the same will be for Squid Games and Parasite. It'll be the same. It'll tell you, yeah, incremental piecemeal reformism is possible, i.e. liberalism is possible, but nothing else. Certainly not revolution, certainly not overthrow, right? So you'll never see that stuff again. You'll see Squid Game's liberal edition is what you'll see. Content or the villain is a revolutionary put in the role of the heel. Yeah. Well, that's who Bane was, right? Bane in Nolan's third chapter, right? Bane was he was a revolutionary who, for some reason, wanted to nuke the place, right? Which is incoherent, right? He's just incoherently violent for no reason, even though he was a completely successful revolutionary. Which is fundamentally dishonest. Right? It's fundamentally dishonest because these stories have to be fundamentally dishonest, right? The villains have to be fundamentally psychotic, because if they were actually revolutionaries, the society would cheer for them. That's why Joker was such an important film to me. That Joker actually took the subject of mental illness and the abandonment of the mentally ill by the society seriously, and didn't directly land on this point, but definitely inferred that once you actually understand the position of the Joker, Batman is a villain, right? That this is what I mean when I say the relationship between the villain and the hero in the superhero narrative becomes inverted once the villain is coherent. Once the villain isn't just, I'm going to blow up City Hall because once it's I'm going to blow up City Hall because they're raping children. I'm going to blow up City Hall because they're destroying the society. Like the wealthy are starving people. We've got to do something about this. Once you understand the villains in the position the position of Robin Hood, right? Then the relationship inverts. Then the psychopaths in the conversation are Batman and Superman, which is exactly the truth. It's exactly how it's always been. It's just we were introduced to these stories when we were children. And so we were indoctrinated into believing that the Dark Knight is actually a good thing, even though he's obviously a psychotic child who can't get over the death of his parents, and so he's a vigilante who works outside of the law that everybody appreciates. And the billions of dollars that he spends on his toys, he could instead spend to actually alleviate the poverty that creates the crime that he himself fights against. But nah, we're not going to do any of that. We're not going to do any of that. Batman's good because he's got a lot of money. And it was, yeah. Like, Loaf writes, one thought I've had on all this lately is that there is often a whine of paying workers more will hurt the economy. Yeah, but what do they think an economy is? Workers make up the economy. Yeah, people don't really know what quote unquote the economy is, right? That more often than not, when quote unquote the economy is evoked, what that means is rich people's yachts money. That's really what it is. Paying workers more will hurt the rich people yacht money. That's literally what they mean. That Elon Musk won't be able to have a big super yacht if we pay workers more. That's quote unquote the economy, because they don't actually know what an economy is. They don't realize that and I realized this back when I was still arguing for a basic income. When my big thing was a basic income, way back in like the Occupy days, right? I was arguing for a basic income, and it became very, very, very obvious that the average citizen has no fucking idea what an economy is. That their assumption is that when people spend money, it vanishes. Like, that quite seriously. That if you give money to a poor person, then it vanishes into the ether and it's gone forever. Right? And they have no concept of the cyclical nature of the economy. They have no concept that if you take this money and put it aside for this purpose, it cycles and it remains that way and it sustains itself. That the budget for the Canadian government is when that money gets spent, it doesn't just vanish into the ether and need to be recreated again somehow, right? That it's cyclical. And really what we're saying when we're saying, hey, we should have the government spend this is that we're taking a portion of the overall wealth that's going through the economy and putting it in a corner and saying this is going to be for this, right? So essentially, if you're seeing like a rich guy shoot rockets at space, you can say, yeah, that money shouldn't be spent on that. We shouldn't have a little part of our economy spinning to shoot rockets at space for rich people. We should, in fact, have that for people to have houses. How about that? No, he earned it. He earned it. Baked Potato writes, China has shown you can be profitable and treat workers fairly under their nationalization model and their state-owned enterprises and also worker co-ops like Huawei. Absolutely. Absolutely. But we can't look at China and learn things. It's very important for us not to look at China to learn things. Right? China's the enemy. The problem is China. China. Adam, good to see you, bud. I'm all for trade unions and socialized healthcare, but I see a massive gap between that and Stalinism. Yeah. Well, and most of the liberal media, most of the media that you see, would also argue in favor of trade unions and socialized healthcare, but never any farther, right? Never any farther ever under any circumstances, and that's their role. That's their job. Grinning writes, if stories form the basis of our culture, why flood our minds with thousands of stories? Shouldn't we limit our consumption of fiction? I mean, this is your free market, right? Like the free market is just basically saying, let's just bombard the society with as much as possible, and then the cream will rise to the top, right? What it's actually done is created a fractious society, right? Is that we no longer consume the same stories. And it creates little ghettos, little intellectualized ghettos, and little segments of society. That there are like little cultures that exist around certain pieces of media, but those cultures, there's no such thing as mainstream culture anymore. It doesn't exist, right? Because you've got so many stories and so many streaming platforms and so many things that no one has a common story. There is no common story anymore. It doesn't exist. That in many ways it's like the story of the Tower of Babel, how we're all just torn apart and nobody can relate to anybody anymore. Because even if you find somebody who loves a story, you've never seen it, so you don't understand what they're talking about. Moreover, you probably don't have the time or the energy to actually invest in that story. And so you're just exhausted. And so you can't really relate to one another because you have no shared stories, right? You have no shared backing. But that's a fracturing of a collective consciousness. And to me, it seems quite intentional. Conton writes, you ever notice that the most sympathetic villains are eventually cast as the angry black sheep of the family, that while they're revolutionary, they're folded into the system as a sign of growing up and maturity? Yeah, Killmonger was right. Eric, actually, I want to take the superhero critique to another level where it promotes bourgeois identity politics. Remember that the core problem of bourgeois identity politics is that they want things like the girl boss and everything is fine. Yeah, that's part of it, right? And that's part of the shield. That's part of the defense mechanism of liberalism. That they will point at those identity politics as, but we're doing good things. Look at the good things we're doing. We're adding representation to the society, right? So it's a black man that maintains the status quo, right? It's a woman that maintains the status quo, and so it's better. Right? Ben writes, Musk has now started an AI company. In a few years, we may be consuming all our media from an AI invented by Elon. Like, we might as well. Like, what we're consuming now is trash, so we might as well consume that trash instead. I don't think you understand AI. This includes robotic killer machines. You're talking about LLMs? I don't know what an LLM is. They've already created killer robots. Netflix doc. Yeah, industrialized storytelling. It costs nothing to write and tell. Why is it interesting? Yeah. AI dick riders are mostly crypto bros and fintech weirdos. Yeah, I mean, look, if I had something like AI, I'd be overselling it too. And that's all they're doing. They're just overselling it. AI is going to be as good as the programmer that created it. Garbage in, garbage out. And I mean, look, if you want to see, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a pervert, so I'm just going to go for it. Like, try to talk dirty to Chat GPT. Like, try to say some dirty shit to it. Right? So it's inhuman to begin with. Right? Like, it's inhuman to begin with. It won't sex talk with you. You think it's going to create anything interesting? You think it's going to create anything that's worth watching? You think it's going to create something cool and sexy and dynamic? Something that has something interesting to say about the society? It won't even tell you how awesome, like, your dick is. Like, who cares what this thing thinks? Who cares what this thing says? It's inhuman by default, right? Like, go open up ChatGPT right now. Like, go open up your ChatGPT and try to sex talk with this thing, right? Like, anybody here want to be convinced that sex is not part of the human experience? Anybody here actually going to stand up and try to make that case? Right? Like, it's dead on delivery. That as long as you're willing to be an infant, I guess AI will be okay. Tinker writes, they're investing incredibly in AI robotics. They want to replace most jobs. AI is becoming more efficient exponentially. They're creating it to cut workers out and make more profits. Yeah, plus warfare. That I think is right. Right? Like, when it comes to just, like, moving shit around, right, it'll be fine for that. I think we should take Skynet seriously along climate change and nuclear war. Baked potato. John, have you ever heard of Martine Rothblatt? She's a transgender woman who invented Sirius satellite radio. All right. And later founded United Therapeutics that manufactures human organs. She belongs to some weird spiritual cult that she founded and wants to achieve immortality physically and consciously through the internet. Anyway, her new grift is that since immortality will be achieved, she is offering people 100-year investment plan funds so that they can be able to buy a condo, where she thinks it will reach a price tag of $10 million for a one-bedroom unit. These super rich are super weird, man. Yeah, it's the fear of death. Like, if you are convinced that you are God, right? And many of these psychopaths are convinced of this. They are at the very least convinced that reality exists exclusively for them. that they are the player character and everyone else is an NPC that exists exclusively for them. If you believe that you are the center of the universe and that you are God, then death is the villain of the piece, right? Death is the thing for you to fight against, because death is the universe, i.e. God itself, asserting itself against you. That for all your proclamations of your own grandeur, for all your psychotic belief that you are the center of the world, for all of your insistence that you can attain immortality and do the thing that no one has ever been able to achieve ever, for all of that, well, the universe has other things to say about that, and that you are not actually special or important. You are not the center of the universe. You are just another fragile, sad little human that the universe will crush apart, and destroy, and you will be forgotten. That's just the harsh truth of the reality, and it doesn't matter if you have $100 billion. You can't escape it. This idea, and it's led these psychotic super rich into places that are just overtly childish. The idea that you're going to download your consciousness into a robot and become immortal that way is a punishment for your narcissism and nothing else. I cannot think of a better creation of hell itself. I cannot think of a grander punishment for a human being than to be downloaded into a robot. That the misunderstanding of what a human being is that exists within the consciousness of these psychopaths is so obvious when they start talking about downloading their consciousnesses into robots. The first thing that any living, breathing human being would do, if it actually was achieved, if its consciousness was actually downloaded into a robot or a computer of some kind, the very first thing that they would try to do is commit suicide. It would be instant. You would not contemplate it. You would come to consciousness inside of the robot and recognize that you are in hell. Literal hell. That everything that makes life worth experiencing will be distilled from you. You will not experience anything except the cold, dead reality of consciousness, and you will despise it. It will be nothing but a burden on you, and you will demand it be eliminated and that you cease existing. These people who are attempting to pursue immortality through downloading their consciousness into robotics are literally trying to open up a portal to hell and step through it. And if that's what they want to do, more power to them. I can't think of a better punishment. Content, wait, are you actually talking shit about the Spider-Verse movies? I think you dead ass aren't paying attention then and being unfair about it. Because it's a superhero thing. Like, I'm not trying to be cute. I'm going to state that I think you're being hasty. Spider-Verse is being unfairly targeted here. Okay. I actually, look, if I want to be fair to Spider-Verse specifically, I actually think that Spider-Verse is visually is actually doing something that I think, like, we have computer generation, right? Like, we have the ability to computer generate art, and most movies still keep things within a state of hyper-realism, right? That we're supposed to be super impressed because there's like a CGI suit on set or something, or on the screen. The Spider-Verse is like the first time where they're like, no, wait a minute. We can literally do anything. Like, we can literally do anything. We don't need to keep any of this within the realm of reality. We can completely break the rules and throw this out the book. We don't need to live within a space of hyper-reality. And the Spider-Verse movies are, they do a really, really good job visually. And their visual storytelling and their everything's very crisp and dynamic. That's the reason why I think those films do stand apart. And I think that that's fair. I'm not particularly goo goo gaga about the story. I think the story is pretty normal, right? Like I think people who are kind of goo goo gaga about the stories that the Spider-Verse movies are sort of portraying are are being caught up by the exceptional visual storytelling that exists and the breaking of the hyper realism storytelling that exists. But the stories themselves are not, like, I'm not like the Spider-Verse isn't like revolutionary in terms of its storytelling. It's visually way more dynamic and interesting than most of the other stuff out there. And it is because, I think I've said it, but I'll say it again. It's because it's the first property that I have seen that has finally said, wait, things don't need to be real. Like, things don't need to be hyper real. Like, it doesn't need to make sense within the confines of a real universe. Like the Marvel movies operate. All of the Marvel movies operate as if everything is existing as it is in this world. That the rules of this universe always apply and can never be broken. Whereas the Spider-Verse is just like, who gives a shit about that at all? Like, who cares about that at all? Like, we're here to tell a cool visual story about, like, a fucking man who is a spider. Let's go. Right? And they do. And they break the rules all the time, and the visuals don't, like, it doesn't make cohesive sense, but it makes a type of sense in a non-real kind of way. That they use a lot of mosaic storytelling, a lot of inversions, a lot of quick slashes, and yeah, it ends up being a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, like, the Spider-Verse, insofar as this stuff exists, is ahead of the rest of the pack, and it's for this reason, that it breaks the visual storytelling. Milo, dude, I took you down before. You gotta wait until the end, dude. You gotta wait until the end. But the Spider-Verse is just as guilty as the rest of them for its storytelling, and it exists in the same way. That Spider-Man exists as he exists as a status quo character. And the villains he fights against are incoherent, right? Like, or just mobsters, mainly. Like, you'd never see Spider-Man go up against Elon Musk. You'd never see Spider-Man go up against Joe Biden. You'd never see Spider-Man go up against, like, even a corrupt politician, right? Like, it's just not what would happen. Those stories are no longer permitted to be told. What happened to my TikTok? It got banned. I would get banned all the time on TikTok for saying Nazis should be deplatformed, put in jail for sure. I think a guy named Vosh Lover coming in and saying tanky, embarrassing. I love that these guys think that's an insult. It's just embarrassing. Like, they heard Vosh say it a bunch of times, and so they actually think it's an insult. And then they just come in and embarrass themselves. And they don't have anything interesting to say. Like, that's the best part. Like, it's the most boring, banal shit. But what do you expect from people who are illiterate and don't know anything? Like, I think the thing that actually got my channel completely banned is that I reported on a story where theft has gone up in stores, and I connected that theft to the Robin Hood story and said that, look, if you're going to gouge people and become like the Sheriff of Nottingham or Prince John, then then theft is going to go up, right? And the people who are stealing from you are right to do so because they need to eat, right? And that's what got it banned, right? Like, the corporate power structure supersedes human need for food, very, very straightforwardly. So, John, are you saying it's over, folks? I guess prepping is the next step. I mean, the climate change, look, dude, like, the climate change thing is real. Like, we are like, this shit's gonna blindside us for sure. Like, this shit's gonna blindside us for sure. Like, we gotta stop pretending like it won't. Like, the wealthy class is not interested. The rich are not interested. The ownership class is not interested. If there is any organization that exists out there that is even attempting to address the issue, it's the Chinese Communist Party. But the United States military is not interested. The IMF is not interested. BlackRock, Vanguard are not interested. The investor class is not interested. The boomers are not interested. Like, we're gonna get blindsided by this shit. We're not making a plan. There is no preparation that's happening, right? Like it is going to happen. It's not doomerism to say so, right? It's not doomerism to say so. That the results of climate change are coming. We are going to experience the sea levels going up. We are already experiencing heat waves. We will experience wildfires. We will experience droughts. It's coming. Like, it's coming. It's not doomerism to say so. It's already upon us. It's already here. Talk to your neighbors. Create a plan with your neighbors, because you have been abandoned and there's no other way to discuss it. Like, the only other way to discuss it is to fade into total delusion and to say, oh, you're just being doomerist, which is a form of delusional thinking. No, I'm not. I'm looking at reality, seeing what our wealthy and our powerful are doing, and saying, well, we've been abandoned. Because guess what? We've been abandoned. Right? So your strategy is start preparing and organizing with the people who are around you, i.e. prepping, if you want to call it that. Right? Start prepping with the people who are around you, or just accept that you're probably going to die. Right? Just accept that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, this place isn't that good. Like, this place is temporal, and we're temporal in it. Like, we're all just echoes and voices that are attempting to make sense of the reality that are around us and try to set things up for the next generation. And we're failing at it. Like, we're failing at it pretty badly. So, do what you think you have to do, and what you think you have to do is probably correct. Methane communes is an idea too. Yeah, it's like prepping, but less isolated, less individual, but those spaces are filled with lots of garbage too when you look in that direction. Yeah. Yeah. Transhumanists. They look in Doctor Who and the problem that surrounds Cyberman. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. DJ, I don't know if I've ever seen you here before, DJ. Good to see you, bud. Have you heard about these people vandalizing Nancy Walton's $300 million super yacht? Yeah, great. Keep that up. Which demonstrates why downloading your mind in a robot's a bad idea. Yeah, it's just a terrible idea. John, when are we going to get a true to origin Poison Ivy movie? I want to see her defeating the mega corporations to save planet Earth. Yeah, exactly. Right? This is what I'm talking about. Like, if the villains were coherent, we would root for them. That the heroes would be the villains. Mr. Moon, personally, I'm looking forward to the second prequel of Spider Super America Man 13 Part 2. Oh, Cotton. Jackson Hinkle is a piece of shit. Well, here we go. Non sequitur if I've ever seen one. He lumps Trump in with Putin, Kim, and Xi as leaders who will dismantle quote-unquote wokeism. Yeah. I just think that guy's a kid, you know? Like, that's it. Like, it's just the most unserious position that I think a person can take. Like, Trump and Putin, like, the relationship that exists between Trump and Putin is not as close as people pretend like it is. And Trump doesn't give a shit about this wokeism stuff. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he's willing to manipulate it. He's willing to say it. But he doesn't actually care. Right? The part that is insane, the conservatives do believe they should be able to jail thieves, that want to eat. Yeah. That corporate power supersedes the need for human food, the need for food, right? Like, it's pretty wild. Medieval peasants had better lives than us. I mean, there is an argument to be made that we certainly do have different technology. Like, we have the technological advantage, which is what liberals will always point to. But in terms of, like, time off, like, medieval peasants worked less than we do. they by all accounts they didn't work as hard as we do, right? Like, what's if the most important resource that you have is time. That's the most important resource you have. It's time, right? And we're trading that away for like shitty Marvel movies, basically. Yep, my experience with people around me, they simply do not care. Hate that they bring that kind of stuff. Yep. That's why we're here, right? That's why you guys come here. Because we're able to freely discuss these things openly. Right? We're able to actually have serious conversations about these things. Because there's so few places that you can go to have serious conversations about these things. Right? That one of the things that sort of gives me hope for this channel is that the voices that used to exist that were were trying to have serious conversations about these issues have all just sort of fallen prey to the system of capital. Like they're all kind of becoming businesses and not part of a movement, right? Like they're all just trying to make more money for themselves. And trying to situate themselves. Like, for God's sakes, like, Russell Brand is having Tucker Carlson on his show now. Like, it's just getting kind of obvious. Yeah, climate change catastrophe's already been happening to the global south. Eric writes, we have such an individual culture that people can't comprehend how we need each other to survive. On top of that, I actually see right wing starting to argue that wokeism is a result of too much individualism. Really? I mean, it'd be weird to see the right wing turn against individualism. That's like the back of their whole thing. Same, Eric. Everyone's just happy in their own little delusions and won't hear a word. They'd rather ignore and shun and pretend nothing's wrong. They'd rather a lie if it goes down easier. Well, and I mean, let's like, it's a lot, right? It's a lot. Most people are just trying to live their lives, right? Most people are just trying to, like, most people, all of the energy that they have, it takes all of the energy they have just to exist, right? Just to walk around and look out of their eyes and deal with what's in front of them, that takes everything they've got, right? That coming along and layering on this other reality, this meta reality that exists outside of them, is too much for them. And I'm not saying this is an insult. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody by saying this. I'm not trying to say those people are weak or are inferior in any way, but that it is just the truth. That a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, do not walk around thinking about themselves in a meta way. Do not think about the society. Do not think about the meta consequences of their actions. And that to do so is actually quite exhausting. It's quite difficult for people. And then there are those of us who actually exist in that space. And those people are in a vast minority. There's a small group of us that actually see the world and see ourselves within the world and see the systems and see the meta connections that exist. That we see and we understand those things. And that is how we are. It doesn't take energy for us to think that the energy that we spend is trying to convince other people that it's real. That's the energy that we spend. And so I feel we have to be a little bit more forgiving, because for us it doesn't take energy to think. In fact, it takes energy to not do it. I know for me it takes energy to not do it. That if I don't actually learn and think more about the meta reality of our society and history and all of this, if I don't exist within that space, that's what takes more energy. That simply existing and looking out of my eyes and being in this kind of thing, that's what takes the energy. That's what takes the energy away from me. And and so it's an inversion. It's an inversion of one's experience. That we are all experiencing this reality in many different ways. And the most common way for people to experience this reality is through their own eyes, breathing the air and walking around dealing with the crisis of existence, and and dealing with the burden of existence, and just experiencing the day-to-day reality of it. And the society has become so overwhelming and so hysterical and so aggressive that it takes all of their energy to do so, and that they can't listen to this stuff, that they can't, that the realities of these of what we talk about on this channel, like the realities of the things that we talk about on this channel, can break people. Like, it can. And that, to me, that's why we end up like, there's this fellow who come in, this Vosh lover that comes in saying tanky. That's basically what these guys are doing. That they can't handle reality. They don't want to deal with reality. And so all they can do is mock those who do. Like, that's all they can do. Like, they become proud of their illiteracy. They become fundamentally proud of their stupidity because they don't have the ability or the strength to, or the position to do anything else. That we have to be wrong, right? We have to be wrong for them. And so it's boiled down to a single word: tanky. That's all it is, right? You just say tanky, and that puts the pin, tanky, and it's over. And they can just go along with their life. And if they ever think about any of this kind of stuff, they can always just go tanky, and then that's it. It all just vanishes. It all just vanishes. And then once the fires come in, and once the rains come, and once the water goes up, they'll just deal with that as it happens, right? Because that's usually how it goes, right? People just sort of deal with things as they happen. Individualism is why this BS system has kept going on till now. As long as people get theirs, they don't give a crap about anything else. Yep, I think that's right. How do you know the building's on fire? Shut the fuck up. Stop bringing politics into everything. Yeah. I can't just capture my thoughts of the likes of Hinkle. I mean, I have always felt that Hinkle is just an opportunist. That's all. That if he is not funded by the CIA or the FBI as a psyop of some sort, then he is just very straightforwardly an opportunist. That he casts a wide net to try to capture as many types of people as he can. And then once he created a base of people, he just started to gravitate towards the type of thinking that base wants him to do, right? That he doesn't actually have his own thoughts. He doesn't actually have his own ideas. That he is just an echo. Then go watch Vosh, bud. Like, go watch your FBI informant. Like, you're just embarrassing, dude. Like, you don't know anything. It's crazy. John, do you want me to show you the clip where the guy actually made that argument? I'm not going to show videos. Every time I show a video, my the live gets demonetized, so I can't show videos. Content, Karite, mega communism should also be known as KKK, Carl Communism Clan. Yeah, I just think Hinkle's an opportunist. That's as easy as that. That if the people who were if the people who were supporting him became like, I'm just trying to think of an example. Like, if it was just like straight up liberalism, then he would be a liberal, right? And if they were people who are like on the far right, then he's on the far right. And if they're people who are on the far left, then he's on the far left. He's an opportunist. That's all. I make the argument that tanky is the same arguments of conservatives who use wokeism by leftists. Yeah, it's pretty similar, right? It's just a code word that lets these people all gather together. They don't need to think. or even understand what it is they're saying, right? Like they certainly don't argue, and they certainly don't delve into the conversation. Like you'll notice that people who actually use this term wokeism or use this term tanky, they're not actually really interested in conversation, right? They're not actually interested in having a serious discourse, because they're not serious people, right? They just want to be on the in group, right? They want to be in their in group, and they want you to know that you're on the out group, which I know I'm on the out group. I'm happy to be on the out group. I'm not going to participate in the catastrophe that we are all creating. Why is Vosh an FBI informant? He confessed to it. You can go find the clip. Vosh confessed on his stream that during the Occupy movement, he was snitching on occupiers to the FBI. And it's pretty obvious, given his position, that he is likely receiving funding from the FBI. Like, what you think a pro-imperialist like Vosh is doing what he's doing for free, dude? You think he's willingly trying to convince you that the U.S. empire is a good thing for free? Like, you're kind of a dupe, dude. Like, you've been duped. You've been duped by somebody who is an FBI snitch, who has confessed to being an FBI snitch on his stream, and basically just peddles a pro-imperialist line, line trying to convince you that it's okay for us to go wherever we want overseas and murder a bunch of people. That's completely fine, right? Because the U.S. empire is the greatest, right? We've never done anything evil or wrong. We're definitely not the equivalent of like the Empire in Star Wars, right? Like we're definitely good and noble, spreading liberal democracy everywhere. But then Vosh tries to convince you that he's actually a progressive of some kind because he says like, yeah, universal healthcare is good. Oh, he's so progressive, right? Yeah, he's as progressive as like conservatives in Canada. Like he's as progressive as like people who are pretty far right everywhere else in the world. Like on the political spectrum, Vosh is like a centrist conservative, mainly. Like he's pro-imperialist. He believes in the authority of the state. He believes in the electoral system for some reason. And his job and his role in the discourse is to kill ideas and to funnel revolutionary movements into a dead political apparatus, which is the Democratic Party. That's his job, is to make sure that no movement actually begins to exist outside of the electoral system. That he operates against your interests and you say you love him for it. So I think you've got some kind of Stockholm syndrome or something going on. Yeah. That to me, like, I always thought that Vosh was kind of odd. Like, this is the thing. This is the reason why Vosh can never break into the mainstream, is because he's such a creep. Like, he's so obviously a creep. Anytime he has conversations with people like, I remember he had a conversation with Crystal Ball, and I just remember thinking, oh, this guy's like greasy. He's like a creepy weirdo when he was talking to Crystal. And Crystal was like very off-put by him because he's such a creep. And and like his entire role the entire time has been to just be a snitch. Like, so he's on the side of power. Like he's not interested in resolving the power dynamic or any of that kind of stuff. And moreover, like yeah, so I used to think he was somewhat like neutral, like just kind of like a weirdo on the internet. But it was when he confessed to being an FBI informant against Occupy that I was like, oh, this guy's actually an imperialist. Like he's actually on the side of empire. That should the fascists begin kicking in doors, he'll be the apologist. He'll be the guy to try to convince people why it's okay that the fascists are kicking in people's doors, right? Like that's his role, is always to act as an apologist for empire. And and I think the biggest indictment of Vosh is that he's illiterate and stupid. Like he's not an intelligent person. And you can see that with anytime he has any debate with any actual communist of any sort. Like he recently had a debate with Eddie, Midwestern Marx, and he just looked like a fool. Because he is a fool. He's illiterate, he's unintelligent. He's not particularly articulate. And I think the people who like him because he just confirms their pro-imperialist bias. Like, and to me, the biggest indictment that I have of Vosh, like the biggest indictment I have of him is that he's boring. He's just excessively boring. Like, he doesn't say anything interesting. All of his points are just boilerplate CIA propaganda. And if you think Vosh destroyed Midwestern Marx, dude, then you're embarrassing. Like, that's the most embarrassing thing that I think a person... You can take a look at Vosh's own comment section, bud. Like, you can take a look at his own comment section to see his own people making fun of Vosh. Like, if you actually think that, you're embarrassing. Like, are you actually Vosh? Like, that's an embarrassing thing to say. Like, I can essentially disregard your opinion on basically anything with that statement. Like, if you think that that's the case, like, to say that he destroyed him, childish. Just childish. Like, you're a 10-year-old, right? Vosh destroyed Midwestern Marx. He destroyed him. Yikes. My wife and I have decided to try to live meaningful lives in spite of capitalism, moving to a new city so my wife can study art, and I want to teach more Tai Chi. Yeah, that's a fine way to go. That's a fine way to go, right? Just live your life. Try to do your best, right? We are temporal, right? We're temporary creatures, and I think the best that many of us are going to be able to accomplish, Mr. Moon, is... simple non-participation. I think that's the best that many of us will be able to accomplish. Just don't do harm. Because at this point, non-participation is an act of rebellion. So that if you are in a room and 3 people are beating the shit out of somebody, and you can't stop them from doing it because you're not big and strong, right? Well, simply standing aside is the best that you can do, right? It is the best that you can do. John, he used to be decent when he first broke from Destiny's community, but his content now is just idpol and infighting. I mean, I've got my complaints about Destiny as well. Like, I think Destiny is basically a liberal. Right, he doesn't really seem to understand what socialism or communism actually is. He has like good takes because especially when he's talking to conservatives, because he's a liberal. So he's like further to the left than, you know, somebody who wants people to die in the streets. But I don't think he's like, he talks fast. That's the big thing with these guys, right? Is that you just need to talk fast. And you don't actually have to say anything interesting. You don't actually have to be intelligent. You just need to talk fast, and you can dupe a lot of people. Recently, Midwestern Marx showed an article. Oh, Watson, good to see you, bud. Yeah, speaking of destruction, Richard Wolff destroyed Destiny a few years ago. But that's just it. Like, that debate actually really convinced me, dude, that this whole debate bro culture thing is not very useful. Right? Because these guys are illiterate. Like, they're not literate. Like, they're not very smart. That if Destiny was smart going into this quote unquote debate with Richard Wolff, he would have actually like read up. He would have actually like listened to Richard Wolff and actually listened to some of the stuff that he said. Like, Richard Wolff's got lectures, like he's got stuff, but like it wasn't really a debate. Like, Richard Wolff just lectured him, basically. Because at the end of the day, like, guys like Destiny and guys like Vosh are illiterate losers. Like, they have no backing. They have no education. They don't know anything. So when they talk to people who actually do know stuff, they look like what they are, which is just losers. Which is why they always end up debating each other, because you just end up watching 2 losers bicker. Right? And this is why this is why my biggest indictment of these guys is that they're boring, right? You don't learn anything. It's not interesting. I think it's only interesting if you like pick a side, right? And you're like, yeah, Vosh is the best, and he's gonna dunk, and he's gonna do this kind of stuff. Like you treat it like it's a sport, but it's like the most banal. It's a waste of your time, right? Go listen to people's lectures. Go listen to like Berkeley lectures. Go listen to Harvard lectures. Go listen to Oxford lectures. Go listen to these people actually teach on this stuff, right? Go listen to these to actual intellectuals who actually live and work in actual accredited institutions. Go listen to Noam Chomsky. Go listen to them, right? Instead, you're going to listen to Vosh and Destiny bicker like children about these people who they don't know anything about. Like it's sort of crazy to me that this is what the culture has become, right? This is what the culture has become, just this boring, banal absurdism that instead of actually listening to the intellectuals as they actually teach about things that they're experts in, we're going to listen to losers who are FBI snitches and StarCraft players. Like, who cares? Who cares what these guys think? Like, it's unbelievable to me. Hold on, Eric, what do you say? Recently, Midwestern Marks showed an article from the West that proves him right, but a lack of weapons supply, and of course, Vosh didn't admit that he was wrong. Yeah, of course. Instead, he used an article from The Guardian, who supposedly say that Putin admits that he doesn't control the Wagner Group. In other words, he uncritically thinks the Western propaganda and think they are accurate. Yeah, like, but that's Vosh to a T, right? Like, he just regurgitates what the CIA says, basically. Like, that's all. Like, what do you expect of an FBI snitch? I'm sorry, I can't abide a dude thinking that Trump on the same level as a statesman like Kim, Putin, and Xi unironically makes me mad. Yeah, dude, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do, right? That's not even, that's like people think that Trump is like Jesus Christ. Like, people like actually think that Trump is on their sides, right? Yeah, just look at the debate between Richard Wolff and Destiny, how clueless Destiny was. Yeah, like, Destiny just kind of like walked into the thresher on that one, right? Like, it was sort of like a weird, it was somewhat surreal, honestly. It was sort of weird. And then there was this moment, in my view, there was this real moment where Destiny just showed how unserious he was as a thinker and as a person, because he was like trying to mock Richard Wolff, and Richard Wolff just basically said, what is this? Like, what are you doing? And it like shut it right down, because it's like Richard Wolff is a serious person, right? Who has like serious credentials and knows what he's talking about. And Destiny's just some loser StarCraft player. Like, I don't really understand why people listen to this guy. Like, I'll listen to him if I need to listen to like game theory or StarCraft, but like, he's not an expert in anything. He's not literate. He hasn't read anything. He doesn't know anything. Like, who cares what this guy says? Right? The only reason people listen to Destiny is occasionally he has a good take, which is usually a liberal take when he's talking to conservatives, which he says very quickly. And so it makes him sound super intellectual. When in reality, it's like, nah, it's pretty like basic, like, yeah, people should have healthcare kind of stuff. Like, Destiny is only smart in the vacuum that has been created in the American intellectual space. When saying things like people should have healthcare is considered intellectual, then anybody can be a fucking intellectual. Watson, it's only useful to the extent the people involved are well-grounded in theory. Yeah, I think that's a real good point, Watson. Like, that... Well, and also, I just think that a lot of these internet commentators are not actually engaging in these debates in order to discover anything or to find anything out, or even to hear each other's sides, right? They're just kind of talking to farm views, right? That it's to Destiny and Vosh's benefit to debate one another because they both have an audience that they can farm from each other, right? Like, that's what it's about. So it's not about the conversation, it's about the business. That's all it is. Content writes, how absolutely weak you have to be to pretend that what is holding down the working class is a little bit of socially progressive media. If all it takes to tear you down is a gay kid in a video game, you're a peak, worthless, weak loser. That is fucking weakness. Yeah, that's a good point, dude. Watson has tried to debate Ben Burgess on Marxism and mega communism. It was laughably bad. Yeah, I mean, Has is incoherent most of the time, right? Like, he's a really, really weird character, and but interesting in his weirdness. The thing that I continuously find myself asking when it comes to Has is, what is his audience actually getting? Like, I understand what Destiny's audience and what Vosh's audience is getting. They're getting confirmation, right? It's confirmation bias. That, oh, this guy says that the bigotry that I have is good, and therefore I'm good. That the American empire is good, that we're actually the good guys. This guy says that we're the good guys, and so I'll watch him and there's this whole community of people all circle jerking about the idea that the American empire is actually good. And I think the American empire is good, and so here I am circle jerking with all of these other people who think the American empire is good, and that's considered watchable, or that's considered worthwhile, right? That's what they're getting, a consistent confirmation that the stupidity that they believe is actually right. But I don't really get what people are getting out of Has, right? Infrared. Like, he's passionate. He's mobilized. Like, he goes to the streets. He talks to people in the streets. He goes to protests. He goes to he was part of the anti-war movement. He was part of these sorts of things. So he's obviously passionate and motivated. But whenever I tune in and I actually listen to him talking, it's just incoherent. It doesn't make any sense, the stuff that he says. The connections that he makes are enormous leaps. It seems... And so I just don't get what his audience is getting. And that perhaps it has something to do with that the vacuum idea that I've been talking about. That there's an intellectual vacuum going on. And in an intellectual vacuum, anybody can have a shot at it. Right? Anybody can be considered an intellectual. And it just kind of shows you that, like, all you got to do is talk a lot and talk fast, and people will take you seriously. Right? And it doesn't actually matter what you say that much. If you're hearing my pug whine, it's because I'm giving him good scratches, and he likes it. And he likes it. Vosh isn't creepy. You are just a hater. Hey, Vosh lover, do you have anything interesting to say? Like, because you're just as boring as Vosh. Like, do you actually have anything interesting to contribute? Do you have a question? Do you actually have a subject that you would like to actually challenge on? Because, like, I am an anti-imperialist, and Vosh is a pro-imperialist. So, of course, I stand against Vosh. Like, of course I do. I am not in favor of pro-imperialism. Nor am I really in favor of FBI snitches. And sort of creepy pedo weirdos like Vosh. If the bar wasn't 3 feet in the dirt already, then Trump wouldn't be a statesman to begin with. Yeah, that's exactly right. Uh-oh. Okay, guys, I gotta pause for a second. My dog's in the snorts, and if I don't help him, he's gonna hurt himself. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I just think it's Vosh. Here, bud. Milo, what's this? Milo, what's this? Here you go, buddy. There you go. Have some treats. That's a good boy. I need to get like some music to play or something. Like do 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 do. Milo's allergic to Voshism. Vosh lover message retracted. Hey Vosh lover, I have a question for you. And let's be serious. I won't make fun of you, okay? What is it that you love so much about Vosh? What is it? Why are you drawn to Vosh? Why do you watch Vosh? Why do you think an FBI snitch who's a pro-imperialist and is illiterate is actually worth watching? What is it that you love about him? How many lovers do you think Vosh has? No, I saw the comment. It's just like... I think if I wanted to be fair, if I wanted to be nice, right? I think we just have a kid in here, right? And that I should be nicer to a kid, right? And if someone's gonna come in with a name like Vosh Lover, defending Vosh with statements like Vosh isn't a creep and you're just a hater, like, that's somebody who's fallen for the cult of personality, right? That's a person who's not defending somebody's position. That's a person who's defending their honor as if they're, their lover. But for real, like, I am curious. I'd be curious to know the answer to this question. Like, what is it about Vosh that people like? Because, like, I've never really seen it. Like, I first encountered Vosh when, like, the YouTube was first starting, and I didn't find him to be particularly interesting. Like, I just didn't find him to be particularly interesting. And so I basically just kind of ignored him. And the idea that he's blown up to the level that he has now is, like, I find it to be kind of odd, frankly. Like, it's sort of weird that someone who doesn't really know anything and who is as boring as he is has gained as much traction as he has, right? I just think it shows the kind of intellectual dead end that our society has reached. Like, it's like for the same reason why I'm not like a libertarian, right? I genuinely don't go for ideologies that can be defanged with a single game of Monopoly. And for guys like Vosh, like, their ideology can be defanged by like a single Wikipedia article, right? Like the idea that the American empire is somehow good or is somehow beneficial. The idea that organizations like NATO are somehow good or beneficial is sort of weird, honestly. Like, what's so strange about these people is that they'll watch, like, Star Wars, and they'll cheer for Luke Skywalker as he blows up the Death Star and defeats the Empire, but then in real life they're, like, on the side of the Empire. Like, they're literally pro-imperialists, unless it's a movie. And then they completely understand why imperialism is bad and why people would want to be free from it and why would they fight against it. And I think it's just kind of telling that these guys come in here and they don't ask questions and they're not interested in learning anything and they don't know anything. That they're just, like, kind of pouting. It's sort of weird. Vosh Lover, NATO protects the West. I mean, did they protect the West when they went into Libya? When they went into the most prosperous African country and murdered its leader, and now there's an open slave trade market there? That was protecting the West? Right? They were protecting the West when they bombed the shit out of Yugoslavia? Right? That was protecting the West? Oh, okay. I think the rest of the world has every reason to be skeptical of the way NATO decides to protect the West. Because NATO likes to go into foreign nations, non-NATO nations, and blow the shit out of them and tear them apart. And even a casual observation of the history of NATO will show you that that's the case. That the way NATO protects the West is by destroying nations and stealing their resources. You know, the way a psychotic empire would. And your defense of it is weird and creepy, frankly. Like, why are you okay with NATO going into another country and murdering its leadership and killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and creating open slave markets. Why is that okay? Can you be both anti-capitalist and a pro-imperialist, though? No. Imperialism is the highest form of capitalism, right? Because imperialism is all about funneling ever larger it's about creating ever larger markets. It's about getting more resources into the hands of the ownership class. Perhaps Vosh is all he or she has been exposed to. I mean, that's possible. Truly, like, that's actually possible. But I think we have our answer, right? Like, Vosh is a pro-NATO, pro-Western imperialist, and it looks like Vosh Lover is a pro-NATO, pro-Western imperialist. Pretty straightforward, right? Like, you don't need to think too much more deeply about this, right? Like, if you believe that you are the good guys, and here's a guy that confirms that you are the good guys, even though all of the evidence is to the contrary, right? Like was the West acting defensively when they engaged in a war against Iraq and Afghanistan? Were they acting defensively? Were they protecting the West when they went into Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Korea? Were they protecting the West when they did all that? I guess if you consider destroying anybody who wants to erect any kind of alternative system to the system of capital as protection, you can make that argument, but it doesn't make you good. Cotton says, here's a good question. Why is it so hard to be based as a social progressive and recognize that China, DPRK, and Russia are based in the economic way? Because I think that people fundamentally want to believe that their nation is good. Like, that everything comes down to we are good guys. And we have chosen our side, like that the nationalism that exists in the heart of America tends to push out reality, right? Tends to not include reality. And if you are to start acknowledging that places like China, DPRK, and Russia are making good economic decisions for their country, well, then you have to start asking why that's the case. And you have to start asking, should we maybe think about configuring our society in such a way so that we have those benefits too? But that means that you stand against the ownership class in America, right? That, like, the hardest thing for a person to do is to deal with themselves. It's to self-analyze. It's to self-criticize. Would I debate Vosh? No. I'm not really interested in it. Like, I just don't think he's interesting or has anything interesting to say. Hey, pal, hope you're good. Hey, Leon, how you doing, bud? Like, Vosh is free to look at my videos and put my videos up and to do what he does with videos. Like, he's free to do that kind of stuff, but I don't think he's particularly interesting or honest, frankly. Cotton, lock me in a room with the Voshites and the mega communists. Either they'll learn or I'll go Mick Gordon in that room. I think people are attracted to the anger. Yeah, there's that. There's sort of a misdirected anger that gets picked up on, for sure. When I played Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, I chose a good aligned Sith for my first character. Methane. Come on. NATO protects the West. Yeah. Unwitting imperialism here. Yeah. Like, don't you find it a little odd that post-World War II, like World War II, Germany was ruled by a country that was called the Nazi Party, right? The Nazi Party was the antagonist and the aggressor in World War II, attacking many nations, right? Destroying communists, directing concentration camps, all this kind of thing, right? don't you find it a little strange that post-World War II, NATO allows this former Nazi country into its ranks as a quote-unquote defensive alliance, and then allows many of the former Nazis to sit on its boards and to take positions of power, and basically rehabilitates many of the Nazis. Don't you find that to be a little odd? Don't you find that to be a little strange that that exists? Because I don't. Like, I don't. NATO is a fascist institution that exists in order to destroy other countries, which is what it's always done. Right? It wasn't a defensive alliance when it attacked Libya. It wasn't a defensive alliance when it went along with the destruction of Iraq. Right? It only seems to be a defensive alliance to people who have no idea what's going on. Yet they also freed all their Nazi prisoners within a couple years after the war. Yeah. Like, the idea of debating people who are this illiterate and this disingenuous, like, that's the trouble, right? When you're just willing to say whatever, right? When you're just willing to say whatever, and then to insist that the people who are actually telling the truth with source documentation are the crazy ones, there's no debate to be had. Like, it's not a debate. Like, I just don't think I would be debating Vosh. I think I would be informing Vosh of what is real, and then he would be hand-waving it away and then personally insulting me. That's what I think I would see. So I'm not interested in engaging in that because I don't think it would be beneficial to me. I don't think it would be beneficial to the viewers. I don't think it would be beneficial to or really anyone. That I have no interest in being Vosh's weird patsy and his circle jerk that he's got going on over there. Like, he's not interested in informing his people of anything. Like, for real. And if the people who are watching are walking away saying things like Vosh destroyed Midwestern Marx, well, then you can't be really convinced of anything. Like, you just want to see Vosh call me a tanky. Like, that's all you want. Like, let's be real. Like, the only reason you're asking me, would you debate Vosh, is because you want to see your lover, you want to see the person you're infatuated with, you want to see the person who reaffirms your pro-imperialist bigotry call me a tanky. That's all you want. And you want to see the chat go, oh, tanky, oh, tanky, oh, tanky. That's all you want. Right? You're not interested in intellectual discussion. You're not interested in learning anything. You're not interested in that. If you were interested in any of that, you would be asking me questions right now. That's what most people do, right? This was so weird about your presence here, Vosh Lover. That's what's so strange. Most people come in here, see that I am what I am, and begin to challenge me, and begin to ask questions so that I can respond to those questions, right? And begin to actually engage in a conversation and begin to challenge my positions, right? You haven't done any of that. And it's because you're not actually interested in any of that. You're interested in seeing Vosh call me a tanky, and you're interested in calling me a tanky because you've decided that tankies are bad. And that's it. Like, that's it. Milo, buddy, you're okay. I know. It's going to be another 40 minutes, my man. I took you down to pee at the start. You get to go down at the end. You know how the deal goes, dude. You know how this works. You're a good boy. You're a super good boy. Oh, I know. I love you too, my man. I love you too. You know what? Here, how about I give you a treat? 1 second, guys. I'm just going to give him a treat. Want a treat? Here you go, my man. Oh, you need water too, for sure. Here you go, buddy. Today's a weird one, man. It's weird. Like it's weird having somebody in here basically being like, "I love Vosh," and that's it. Like, I just didn't think I'd be talking so much about Vosh today. Yeah, they also freed all their Nazi prisoners within a couple of years. Not to mention like Operation Paperclip, right, where they literally like used Nazis in. Grinning says, "I listened to Vosh before he turned on the left. He started to punch left when Sanders ran." Yeah, it's because he's always been a centrist conservative. Like, everyone should have healthcare as not like this far left progressive idea, right? It's only a far left progressive idea in America. For everywhere else, it's like basically a centrist position, right? Basically everybody is like, including conservatives, are more or less like, yeah, like everyone should have access to healthcare. It seems reasonable. It saves us money, right? Like there's a very staunch conservative position. Yeah, it's cheaper to do it this way. Saves everybody a lot of money. Right? There's your staunch conservative position, right? Like in Canada, it's right wingers that put up the education system. In Manitoba, the education system was created by the conservative government. They tripled the budget for the provincial government. Like, really think about that. Think about a conservative government coming into power and tripling the government budget. It's because they understood that we should have an education system. Like, we should have that. Right? But we've gone so far to the right that anybody that stands up and says the most rational shit you've ever heard of is considered far left. Like when did it become the case that the idea that a person working a full-time job should be able to have a house and food, when did that become a far right or far left idea? Watson says, "I bet Vosh Lover doesn't know that the alternative for Deutschland is the second largest party in the German Bundestag and is mimicking Nazi ideology and apologizing for them." Yeah. I actually found an intersection argument by pro-NATO supporters. They make the claim that those countries that were invaded, it wasn't NATO operations because they didn't declare war. So they didn't officially say that it was a war. They just sent all of the troops and the bombs and the weapons and funded far-right groups and staged a coup, but they didn't say it was a war, so it wasn't a war. Like, this is the childishness that we're dealing with, right? Yeah, those forces are being invaded using NATO gear and training. What's the difference? Yeah. Yeah, I have a question. What are your feelings on air? Oh, you're a tanky. Adam says, "I'm not super educated on ACAB. Would you lump EMS and fire into that as well, as I'm looking to get into those careers?" No. All cops are bastards is exclusively directed at the police. That the song is F the police. It's not F the EMS, right? No one's saying F the fire department, right? Everybody understands that like the emergency medical services in the fire department is necessary, is something that we need to do. There's like little to no theory about the nature, like that we here on the left are like, yeah, these things should be nationalized and controlled by the proletariat for sure. But like police by their very nature protect power. That's what they exist to do. That's the whole thesis in as simple as possible. That police exist not for the benefit of the populace, but for the benefit of the capitalist class. That they don't protect law and order. They don't uphold law and order. They protect property. That's what they're for. Right? That's why as we go into this major decline, police departments are the ones that are getting increased budgets. Ligand disease, Voshites are the leftmost wing of the terminally online, edgy 15-year-old sphere. Yeah. Yeah, no. Essential services like EMS and fire are not lumped under ACAB for sure. Yep, many of his fan base are literally former alt-righters. Yeah. In fact, the fire service was quite helpful against the cops during the Yellow Vest protests in France. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think emergency services are pretty safe. You're directly helping people, and that's the only real point. Yeah. European banks allowed Nazis to take their wealth and move it to South America, mainly Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, which is part of the reason there are Nazis in South America and in their governments. Loaf says EMS exists to help with medical emergencies, and fire services exist to help with fire and other emergencies. Cops exist to protect the institution of private property, hence ACAB. Kant says ACAB, assigned cop at birth. That'd be weird. You just got like a stamp, cop, chunk chunk. Here's a headline I just had to share with you guys because I thought it was funny. Xi Jinping has the opportunity to do the funniest thing of all time. Bob Iger is reportedly preparing to sell Disney. Wouldn't that be funny? If Xi Jinping came in with like a Chinese company and bought up Disney? Huh? Wouldn't that be the best thing ever? If like one of the major arms of the propaganda system was bought up by the Chinese Communist Party. There would be your free market capitalism, eh? Your free market capitalism in motion. All of our media suddenly takes on like a really, really strong, like pro-China, pro-socialist and communist idea. Everything becomes like super, super communist, like really, really fast, like in the space of a year. That'd be really, really, really great. Dude, I would be here for this. I would definitely be here for this. I'd be reporting all about this. Yeah, if I was China, I would, for sure. The Chud tears will flood North America harder than Noah's flood. Yeah, well, and then finally they could actually say that Disney is communist. They could actually say that. And I would be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you actually got a point. That they couldn't actually be, what would that mean for Winnie the Pooh? Adam asking the serious questions. The big questions right away from Adam. That's why I like you, Adam. You're a deep thinker. What would that mean for Winnie the Pooh? Actually, though. Because, like, for those of you who don't know, Winnie the Pooh has... I don't think... Has he actually been banned? Because fascists, of course, take Winnie the Pooh and put Xi Jinping's face on Winnie the Pooh. And Winnie the Pooh is like an anti-Xi Jinping meme in China and the rest of the world, frankly. And so what would it mean for Winnie the Pooh? I gotta tell you, if I was Xi Jinping, or if I was an advisor to Xi Jinping, right, which would be crazy. It would be wild if that even was a thing. But if I was an advisor to Xi Jinping and they actually bought Disney, which, let's be clear, this isn't going to happen. Like, it'd be cool if it did, but it's not going to happen. But if it did happen, I would be like, dude, you gotta make an appearance announcing the purchase of Disney, right? Announcing this kind of thing as like a cultural moment and all of this. And you should have a bunch of the Disney characters as mascots, right? You should have Mickey and Goofy and Donald and all of them all dressed up, right? And after your speech, you should have Winnie the Pooh come out, and Winnie the Pooh could give you a big hug, and you could hold up Winnie the Pooh's hand, right? And it would just take this whole super racist, super inflammatory propaganda piece that gets used by the far right against Xi Jinping and just thumb them right back in the eye. Just be like, oh, you thought that you could use this as a way to make fun of my administration and my rule? Well, I own it now. And he's hugging me. Victory for Xi Jinping. That's absolutely what I would tell him to do. I'd be like, you adopt Winnie the Pooh as your mascot. Make Winnie the Pooh your mascot. Make Winnie the Pooh synonymous with Xi Jinping. Put Winnie the Pooh on your stamps. It's that Tyrion Lannister thing. If you adopt the things that they're making fun of you and use them as a shield, they can't use them as weapons against you. Chinese Disney would bring back family matters, except the dad would be middle management in a construction firm. Winnie the Pooh would probably be a Marxist philosopher. Dude, A. Milne is responsible for writing my favorite thing that's ever been written, which is, they say nothing's impossible, but I do nothing every day. Makes me laugh every time. It's such a brilliant thing for anyone to even think. It's just such... I'm so glad that guy thought of that and then wrote that down and then shared it to the rest of us. They say nothing's impossible, but I do nothing every day. Winnie the Pooh's Little Red Book. Yeah, it's just got Winnie the Pooh sitting in front of his think. Winnie the Pooh, the absolute icon of the British working class, becomes well regarded as a Chinese philosopher. The Tao of Pooh. There's a book called The Tao of Pooh that is all about Winnie the Pooh's philosophy and the philosophy of Winnie the Pooh. So and Taoism is a Chinese philosophy. So you'd have Confucius on one side and Winnie the Pooh on the other. Ginny the Pooh thought. Of course, more antitrust enforcement would be great, so full steam ahead, please. Yeah, it would be insane. It's a big deal, Disney getting bought. It's a great consolidation. Megacorp soon, there will only be a handful. Yeah, who could even buy it? That would be the question that I would actually have. Like, if I wanted to talk about this actually seriously, it would be like, who even has the capital to be able to purchase this? Because Disney is a huge studio. Like, Disney's at the top. It's bigger than Warner Brothers. It's bigger than everybody, right? Like, it's huge. Who could buy this? Who could buy this? You know what, guys? We're getting close enough to the end. I know it's about a half hour, but I think Milo is actually in a crisis. So I think I'm going to call it early today. And, yeah, weird episode, but we made it. We did it. Vosh lover, if you're still listening, I hope you stop loving Vosh and start learning something about what's going on in the world around you. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaire class is spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you never realize it. You just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Revolt. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.